Hello TTI students and welcome to the troubleshooting video. We're going to talk in this video here about some basic troubleshooting techniques, and we're going to talk about a couple major issues that happen and are very common with computers. Before we get into all of that, we're going to talk about basic general system upkeep. Two things that you want to do often on your computer in order to have it running at maximum efficiency is to run, well, I would say there's three. The three things that you need is to run your system updates as often as possible. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, sometimes you'll see a flag, and that is actually telling you what your action center requires of you to do. So the flag may actually not be in the bottom corner right away, but if you click on, there's a little tiny triangular arrow there, that'll pull it up and you should be able to see any of the hidden items down there. But the one that we're talking about is the Action Center. That will tell you when you have Windows updates, when you have Java updates, or when you have Flash updates on your machine. All of these will help your runtime environments run most efficiently and help all of your programs work to their maximum ability. All right, so that's number one. Just make sure to run your system updates as often as possible. Number two is if you have an antivirus software on your computer, make sure that your virus definitions are up to date. So your antivirus software is your biggest defense against viruses coming into your machine. There's two steps to that. So you have Windows Firewall, and that is Windows' form of security when you're online. That is the most basic form of protection. It still needs to be updated pretty regularly, but it's not going to prevent you from getting some of the major viruses out there. There's a lot of really crazy viruses out there. Some of them are things like rootkits and Trojans, and there are very numerous amount of viruses out there, and they actually get updated pretty regularly. So you want to make sure that your virus definitions are up to date. So if your antivirus software needs an update, make sure to run those. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, in just general computer upkeep, is to run your disk cleanup. Essentially, with your computers, a lot of the computers that you all will be using now have solid state drives in them. You don't want to run disk defrag. That used to be an old one that we used to use. What you want to do is disk cleanup. What that does is it takes any extra files that you have that are kind of scattered around your computer that you're not using and actually removes them from the computer so that your computer actually will have more space and it will run a little bit more smoothly because you don't have a lot of bloatware just kind of sitting on your computer taking up space. Okay, so that's number two. Oh, yeah, that's number three. All right. So, okay, the last thing we're going to talk about in this video here is we're going to talk about the basic troubleshooting techniques. So to be a good troubleshooter, here's some things to follow that will actually help you in the troubleshooting process. First, write down all of your steps. When you're solving a problem, one of the worst things you can do is not actually remember what you did to your computer in order to try to fix it. When you're bringing your computer to a computer specialist, or if you're communicating with us, the TTI staff, it's important that you make sure to tell us exactly what's going on with your computer and what you've tried in order to solve it so that we're not doing redundant steps. And that kind of saves you time and it saves whoever you're working with time on solving that issue. Okay? Number two, take notes of any error messages that come up on your machine. Windows and certain other programs have very specific error codes that will tell you sometimes what's going on as far as the code itself goes. And one of the most important steps as a programmer is to actually write in those error codes into your program so that when a user comes into something, like I will talk about a very simple one, like an infinite loop per se, in a program, you will actually be able to print out an error code to say, hey, this error is happening. This can be fixed by the program, and there are ways around that, and that can be fixed. So if you write down those error codes, it's really going to help you if you're speaking with a specialist and if you're getting additional help there to know exactly what those error codes are. So definitely write those down, take a picture of them. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. All right. Next, you want to always check your cables. If you are having internet connectivity problems, double check your router cables. If you're having issues with, let's say, a peripheral device, make sure you're checking your cables. Make sure everything's plugged in correctly. All right. So, last but not least, one of those simplest fixes that takes the least amount of time is restarting your computer. Just powering it off and powering it back on. That fixes problems, I would say, a good 30% of the time. All right? So, those are your troubleshooting steps there. All right? And a couple little things about just computer upkeep. This has been a 5-minute video. We're right on the dot. And your next video, we're going to go through a couple troubleshooting scenarios. All right. Bye-bye.